just the second year of the US Mint striking the 1-cent coin. The country was barely a decade old. George Washington was still president, and the Philadelphia Mint was still young, struggling with technology, raw materials, and design changes. Yet, out of those early difficulties came one of the most fascinating, desirable, and valuable coins in American numismatics, the 1794 large cent. The 1794 cent is part of the Liberty Cap series, which began the year before. Liberty is shown with her hair tied back, facing right, wearing the famous Phrygian cap. The cap of freedom used since Roman times to symbolize liberty from oppression. On the reverse is a simple but powerful wreath encircling the denomination, 1 cent, with United States of America around it, primitive in design by today's standards, but deeply symbolic in the 1790s. What makes the 794 cent especially interesting is the sheer number of varieties. Back then, dies were prepared by hand, so slight differences in lettering, spacing, and design features created unique varieties. Today, specialists have catalogued more than 50 die varieties for the 1794 cent, more than any other early US cent. Some of these are incredibly rare, with only a handful known. From the collector's point of view, the 1794 cent is pure treasure. Even in worn condition, it's highly desirable. Prices start around $3,000, $5,000 for coins in lower circulated grades. Mid-range examples can easily reach $25,000, $50,000, but the real sharks come at the top of the market. A PCGS certified 1794 Liberty Cap cent in MS64 brown sold for a staggering $998,750, just shy of $1 million. Other high-end examples routinely bring $200,000, $400,000, depending on variety and grade. Why so much? First, scarcity. Fewer than 1 million large cents were struck in 1794, and far fewer survive. Copper was soft and easily corroded. So many pieces simply didn't make it through 230 years. Second, historical significance. These are among the first coins produced entirely by the Philadelphia Mint, at a time when America was still proving it could produce its own money. Third, variety collecting. Because there are so many known die marriages, specialists hunt each one obsessively, and when a rare die variety comes to auction, the bidding wars push prices through the roof. Auction houses love to feature 1794 cents because they always bring fireworks, a particularly rare variety. The 1794 head of 1793 cent sold for $503,000 in high grade. A beautiful PCGS MS65 Plus, example of the more common varieties realized, $940,000. Even a corroded, scratched 1794 cent with problems can bring $503,000 simply because collectors want any example of this historic year. Imagine holding a coin that may have circulated in the hands of Revolutionary War veterans, farmers settling the frontier, or merchants in Philadelphia just a few years after independence. That connection to history is what gives the 1794 cent its soul. Now, could you actually find one today? Believe it or not. Yes, rarely, but yes. Estate sales, old collections, and even boxes of coins handed down through families sometimes contain early large cents. Most people don't know the difference between an 1800 and a 1794 cent, but that tiny difference can mean tens of thousands of dollars. If you search flea markets, antique shops, and coin shows, it's possible to stumble upon a heavily worn large cent price cheaply. And if it's dated 1794, you might just be looking at a life-changing find. If you're lucky enough to own or discover one, here's what to do. First, don't clean it. Cleaning destroys value. Collectors actually prefer coins with natural toning, even if they look dark. Second, authenticate it with PCGS or NGC. Grading tells buyers exactly what they're paying for and protects you from counterfeits. Third, if it's high grade or a rare die variety, consign it to a major auction house like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, or Great Collections. That's where the big money comes in. The 1794 cent represents more than just copper. It represents the struggle of a new nation to create its own coinage system. It represents artistry, mistakes, and handcrafted uniqueness. And it represents staggering value in today's market, from $3,000 for low-end pieces, all the way up to nearly $1,000 for superb specimens. So when you see a coin jar, an old cigar box, or a tray of large cents at a flea market, don't look past them. That one old coin could turn out to be a 1794 Liberty Cap cent. And if it is, You may be holding a six-figure treasure in the palm of your hand. The very first year, the United States Mint struck a 1-cent coin. This is more than a coin. It's a symbol of America's earliest days, fresh after the Revolution, when our young nation was still defining itself. The 1793 cent was the very first large copper coin issued under the Coinage Act of 1792, produced at the Philadelphia Mint under the direction of David Rittenhouse, America's very first mint director. The 1793 cent came in three major types: the flowing hair chain cent, the flowing hair wreath cent, and the Liberty Cap cent. Each of these varieties has a story, and each is among the rarest and most desirable early American coins ever struck. The flowing hair chain cent was America's first official cent. On the obverse, Liberty's hair flows freely, a symbol of freedom. On the reverse, a chain of 15 links represents the unity of the 15 states in the Union at the time, but the design backfired. Many Americans thought the chain symbolized slavery or bondage, not liberty. Critics quickly condemned it, and the design was changed after just a few weeks. Because of this short production run, only about 36,000 chain cents were ever struck. Today, surviving examples are so rare that even damaged pieces can sell for $30,000, $60,000. High-grade examples certified by PCGS and NGC have reached $2,350,000 at auction. That's right, over $2 million for a single 1-cent coin. The flowing hair wreath cent came next in 1793. The obverse kept Liberty's flowing hair, but the reverse was changed to a wreath of leaves, symbolizing victory and peace. This design was struck for only a few months. Surviving examples are still very scarce, and collectors will pay anywhere from $15,000 for a low-grade example, up to $500,000 for a gem-certified piece. Then came the 1793 Liberty Cap cent, designed by Joseph Wright. Liberty is shown with a liberty pole and cap, a symbol of freedom, drawn from ancient Roman times. This design lasted a bit longer, but the first-year issue is still incredibly rare and valuable. Even a well-worn Liberty Cap cent from 1793 might fetch $8,000, $20,000, while high-grade certified examples have surpassed $400,000 at auction. Think about it. These coins were struck entirely by hand, on crude presses in Philadelphia. Each one has its own quirks, off-center strikes, and plancher flaws. They weren't meant to survive for centuries, yet somehow a few thousand did. And every surviving 1793 cent is a true relic of America's earliest mint history. What drives the value? First, rarity. The chain cent, wreath cent, and Liberty Cap cent all had tiny mintages compared to later issues. Second, historical significance. These were the very first official cents of the United States. Third, condition. Because these coins circulated heavily, most are worn, corroded, or damaged. Finding one in strong condition with original surfaces is like striking gold. That's why collectors are willing to spend 6 and even 7 figures for top-graded examples. Now let's talk about auction records. The 1793 chain cent in PCGS MS66 Brown sold for $2,350,000 at auction, one of the highest prices ever paid for any US copper coin. A 1793 wreath cent in superb condition sold for $546,000. A 1793 Liberty Cap cent in high grade has reached $396, $562, and even heavily worn, corroded pieces with scratches and holes still command $5,000, $10,000, simply because they are from 1793. So the big question, could you find one today? The odds are slim but not impossible. These coins occasionally appear in old estates, tucked away in family collections, passed down for generations. Sometimes they're discovered in old cigar boxes or coin jars where someone long ago recognized their age but not their value. Rare coin dealers and major auction houses also handle them regularly. So keeping an eye on heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, or great collections is essential. If you were lucky enough to come across a 1793 cent, how should you handle it? First, never ever clean it. Cleaning destroys original surfaces and can erase tens of thousands of dollars in value. Second, get it authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC. Certification guarantees authenticity and assigns a grade, which is critical in determining value. Third, if your coin is truly high-end, consider consigning it to a major auction house. That's where competitive bidding drives prices into 6- and 7-figure ranges. To sum it up, the 1793 cent isn't just America's first penny. It's the foundation of US coinage. The chain cent, wreath cent, and Liberty Cap cent all tell the story of a young nation finding its identity through its coinage, with values ranging from $8,000 for low grade survivors all the way up to $2,350,000. For the finest known examples, these coins are both historical treasures and financial powerhouses. And remember, while finding one in the wild is unlikely, knowledge is power. By learning about early American coins, searching estate sales, attending coin shows, and studying auctions, you increase your chances of spotting one of these rare treasures. And if you ever do, it could be the discovery of a lifetime. The 1793 1-cent coin, born from the earliest days of American independence, scarce, beautiful, and worth millions in the right condition. It's not just a coin, it's a piece of America itself. Just think about that year. George Washington was finishing his second term as president. The young United States was only 20 years old. And at the Philadelphia Mint, engravers were still experimenting with designs, dyes, and techniques. Out of those uncertain times came one of the most fascinating and valuable copper coins ever struck, the 1796 1 cent. This year is special because it bridges two iconic designs. Early in 1796, the Mint struck a small number of cents with the Liberty Cap obverse, continuing the style of 1793-1796. But later in the year, they introduced the new draped bust design, with Liberty's portrait facing right, draped in classical style, her hair tied with a ribbon. That shift makes 1926 a pivotal year for US copper coinage. In total, the Mint produced around 363,375 cents in 1796. That's already a low number compared to later years, and survival rates are tiny. Copper coins wore down quickly, corroded in the soil, and many were simply discarded. Today, experts estimate only a few thousand 1796 cents survive in all grades, and far fewer in problem-free, collectible condition. So let's talk about values. Even in low grades, a genuine 1796 1 cent commands staggering prices. A heavily worn example with corrosion might still bring $2,500 to Ford. So no, a solid collectible in fine or very fine condition can sell for $10,000 to 25s. Zonero. But when you get to the higher end, the numbers become shocking. An MS-64 brown draped bust, 720 cents, sold for $211,500 at auction. A PCGS MS-65 plus Liberty Cap variety crossed the block for $3,991.00. And one of the finest known examples, a gorgeous 1796 draped bust cent graded MS-66 by PCGS, sold for a jaw-dropping $705,000. Why so much? Scarcity is only part of the story. The real key is demand from collectors. The 1796 cent is what we call a red book date. Every type collector and early copper enthusiast wants one. And because registries set collectors compete for the finest known coins, when a gem quality piece surfaces, millionaires are ready to fight for it. Supply is fixed, but demand grows every year, which means higher prices. And then there's the varieties. Hand-cut dies in 1796 led to small differences, and specialists crave them. For example, the rarity era variety, where the B in Liberty looks like an H due to a mispunched die, or the rare Sheldon 119 variety with unusual letter spacing. Some varieties are so rare that only a handful exist, and when they come to auction, collectors don't blink at paying six-figure sums. But imagine this. Even a damaged 1796 cent has value. I've seen coins hold for jewelry, bent, or corroded sell for $1,500 to $3,000. Why? Because it's still an original piece of America's first decades of coinage. That's the magic of early coppers. Everything has a home. Now picture yourself stumbling onto one, maybe at a flea market, buried in a box of old coins, where the seller just calls them large cents. Maybe in a cigar box passed down from your grandfather. Most people wouldn't even recognize. A 1796 cent at first glance. But if you do, you're staring at a treasure worth tens of thousands. If you ever find one, here's what to do. Step 1. Never clean it. Cleaning early copper destroys value faster than anything else. Collectors pay premiums for natural surfaces even if the coin looks dark or worn. Step 2. Get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC. Grading tells buyers exactly what they're paying for, and it's essential for selling high-value coins. Step 3. When the time is right, sell through a major auction house like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, or Great Collections. That's where the biggest collectors bid, and that's how six-figure prices are achieved. The 1796 1 cent isn't just money, it's history. It's the transition from Liberty cap to draped bust, from hand-struck artistry to a more standardized design. It's a reminder that the young United States was still figuring out how to make coins, and every mistake, every die variety became part of the story. And it's proof that something as small as a copper cent can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars today. So the next time you see a box of old coins, or someone hands you a bag of coppers and says, "These are just junk," take a close look. Because hidden among them, if you're lucky, could be a 1796 1 cent. And if it is, you might just be holding a six-figure treasure, a coin that links your hands directly to the earliest days of America. America was still brand new. George Washington was in the last year of his presidency. The Philadelphia Mint had only been producing coins for 2 years, and every piece struck by hand told a story of struggle, experimentation, and a nation trying to establish its own identity. And in copper, the 1795 large cent stands out as one of the most fascinating treasures you could ever hope to encounter. The 1795 cent is part of the Liberty Cap series, showing Liberty facing right with her flowing hair tied back, the symbolic cap of freedom on a pole behind her. On the reverse is a simple wreath encircling 1 cent, with United States of America around it. It might look primitive by today's standards, but at the time, this was America's symbol of independence, a coin meant to be used in everyday commerce. Now, what makes 1795 so exciting is the variety of dies and designs. More than 40 different die marriages have been documented. Back then, dies were all hand-engraved, so every little difference in letter spacing, leaf placement, or even a small slip of the engraver's hand created a unique variety. Collectors today obsess over these, and some are incredibly rare. Mintage that year was around 390,000 pieces, already a tiny number compared to later US cents. But copper was soft, easily damaged, and the survival rate is very low. Experts estimate only a few thousand, 1795 cents, exist today in all grades combined. And when you look at values, the results are staggering. Even in low condition, a genuine 1795 cent can bring $2,500 to $4,000. Mid-grade examples in fine or very fine quickly climb to $8,000, $15,000 even, $25,000. But here's where it gets shocking. High-end pieces explode in value. A PCGS MS Brown sold for $161,000. Another, with exceptional surfaces, brought $269,500. And the real monsters? One of the finest known examples, a glowing 1795 Liberty Cap cent in PCGS, MS66, sold for $646,250. And rarer die varieties have hit $940,000 when two determined collectors went to war at auction. These aren't fantasy numbers. These are real sales. Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Goldberg auctions have all recorded 1795 cents, selling well into six figures. And every time one of the finest known surfaces, the numismatic world pays attention. But it's not just about grade. Varieties drive prices higher. For instance, the Jefferson Head 1795 cent, where Liberty's portrait has an unusual look resembling Thomas Jefferson, is so rare that only about 20 examples are confirmed. When one of those appears, prices easily break. $200,000, $300,000, even in lower grades. Another sought-after variety is the lettered edge versus plain edge, showing the mint was still experimenting with coin edges in 1795. Collectors chase these differences with passion. Now imagine this. You're at a flea market, flipping through a tray of old, dark, corroded large cents. Most people see junk copper worth a few bucks. But if you recognize the date, 1795, and confirm it's genuine, you're suddenly looking at a coin worth thousands, or possibly life-changing money, if it's a rare variety. That's why knowledge in coins is power. If you're ever lucky enough to own or discover a 1795 cent, here's what to do. Step 1. Don't clean it. Early copper is delicate. Collectors value originality more than shine. Cleaning destroys value, sometimes cutting a six-figure coin down to a four-figure coin instantly. Step 2. Authenticate and grade it with PCGS or NGC. Not only does that guarantee it's real, but it also identifies the variety, which can add huge premiums. Step 3. Sell through the right venue. A rare 1795 cent should never be dumped on eBay raw. Take it to heritage stacks or another major auction house, because that's where the serious collectors bid against each other and push prices sky high. And here's the real kicker. Demand for these coins isn't slowing down. Every year, more collectors enter the hobby. Registry set competition heats up and supply is fixed. There will never be more 1795 cents. Every time one is lost, damaged, or locked into a permanent collection, scarcity grows. And as scarcity grows, prices rise. That's why we've seen examples that sold for $50,000 20 years ago now, commanding $200,000 plus today. So the 1795 1 cent isn't just an old coin. It's history you can hold. It's proof of America's early struggles. It's a masterpiece of primitive minting technology, and it's one of the few copper coins in existence that can turn up in an old collection and literally change someone's life overnight. So when you see a box of large cents at an antique shop, when you hear a relative say, "Oh, I've got some old copper coins," don't walk away, because if one of them says 1795, you may be holding a coin that's not just worth thousands, but potentially six figures, 646 and 250, or even $940,000, a single copper cent that proves the hidden treasures of America's earliest money are still out there, waiting to be found.